We've briefly talked about material design before, and now it's finally time to have a closer look. And we'll be starting off with colors. And first things first, this design framework has different color roles. We see that all the roles have their own names, like primary, secondary, tertiary, and they determine the color purpose in the UI. One thing to know is that all these roles come in pairs. For example, if there is a color called primary, there's gonna be a second color called on-primary. In this case, primary is the background color, and on-primary is the color of everything that has to be placed on top. And if we get it wrong, it's gonna be pretty hard to see what's going on in UI. We can also choose between two color types. The dynamic color implies that all the colors are deduced from a reference color, for example, a wallpaper. The static color means that every element is assigned a constant color value instead. We're gonna totally skip the dynamic color for now and keep it as a feature that can be implemented later. Static colors also come in two different sets, for light and dark themes respectively. Let's try to make our own static theme in Figma with the tools they provide. This is the screen we've got, and the goal, let's say, is to change the colors of all its elements. The top bar, the content background, the card, and the bottom bar. And to make the color selection process easier for us, we're gonna be using a color generator. It's just literally the first I found on the internet, and it's so easy to use. You just keep hitting the spacebar and it gives you a random combination of colors that nicely fit each other. Alright, this will do. Now we're going back to Figma and looking for a plugin that's called Material Theme Builder. The first thing to do is to create our own theme, and it's gonna be called Sprayer, just like our project. And here is a list of different color roles we've seen before. So we go and copy the color hex code and paste it into the color picker of the respective color. And then repeat for each and every color of our theme. And once we are done, we are ready to apply the new color scheme that we've just created. We've got two options to do that. The first one is to go through all of the screen elements and assign a color to each of those manually, which is going to be tedious and exhausting. We're not going to do that because there is an easier way. That's called color mode swap. And all we've got to do is to select everything, then go back to the plugin and hit one of these swap buttons. And job's a good one. All the colors have just been replaced with the ones from our theme. Now we can apply it to our Android project, which is also pretty simple. We just go to Export, select Jetpack Compose, and it gives us an archive with all the generated sources. Now let's see what we've got. First things first, there is a README file explaining how all of these can be used. And there is a separate theme folder with the actual source code. The color file contains loads of different constants for each and every color role we've got. The theme file combines all of these color values into light and dark color schemes. And we can switch between those using the app theme composable. Now it's time to bring it to a project. First off, we get rid of all the old colors and copy and paste the ones we've just got from the plugin. Now we go to the theme file and remove all the colors that don't exist anymore. Then we go to the generated color scheme definitions and copy and paste those first. So we've got the light scheme, the dark scheme, and whatever else scheme. Now we see that these are named differently compared to what we've had. So we rename those, so we just dark scheme and light scheme instead. Now it's all with the theme. And next is the app. We've got to slightly change the preview first. First off, we can select what kind of theme we want, if it's light or dark. And secondly, we've got to disable the dynamic color because we're not using it yet. By default it's true and we're setting it to false instead. And the dark theme is going to be set to false too. And now to colors. The bottom bar color is no longer going to be white. And from now on we are using only the roles from our theme. Let it be something like surface, for example. The same applies to the top bar. And for some reason they have totally different colors now. Let's figure out why. So we've got container color, content color, and something called tonal elevation. And as per documentation, this is a tonal effect that allows a surface to stand out from its surroundings. And of course it's got a default value that results in a different color tone for us. To avoid this, we can easily set it to 0 dp. That's just changed everything, which means that was the problem. Now we can change the content background color and it's gonna be a container color set to primary container role. And the last element that we haven't touched yet is the card. It's got its own color too, and it has to be one of the colors from our theme. So let's go and change that quickly. We can probably make it of the same color we use for both bars. We're going to Material Theme, Color Scheme, and Surface then. And we also don't really need to explicitly specify the preview background. It's even easier to see the actual color without it. Now let's check it out in the screen preview again. It might be a bit hard to see, but the bar and the card have the same color now. We can also check how it looks with the dark theme on. Let's bring it back to light for now. And actually both bottom and top bars have the surface color role associated with them already, which practically means that neither this nor this is needed. And we are also fine with the default bottom bar elevation. Now it's about time to get to fonts. And here we've got two different groups. The first one is called Display Headlines and Titles, and the second is Body and Labels. So we can decide what font is used for each of those. Let's say we want to use JetBrains Mono for the first one, and so we do for Body and Labels, so everything is consistent. Now we've got to wait for a little because it's gonna update the fonts everywhere. And now we see how all the new fonts are applied to the text elements. And now if we re-export the theme again, the type file is gonna have more information than it used to. Let's copy and paste it to a project. And actually there is a missing import and the resource file. Okay, let's quickly check if we forgot something. Yeah, and actually there is a new file that's been generated, and it should probably belong to a values folder. Let's see if it works or not. Okay, there it is gone. Apart from that, the format typography object got renamed, so we've got to go to the theme file and fix that real quick. Now we can check the preview out. And it doesn't even compile because we seem to have introduced a new library. That's just not found. Let's do what it suggests. Nah, this doesn't help. And you know what? The problem is that we've just imported a new library, and this library downloads fonts programmatically, and that means we can't see it in preview, because there is simply no runtime in preview. And the only way to see if it works is to run the app on the emulator. We haven't done this yet, so it's a nice opportunity to check it along the way. Alright, have the fingers crossed. There we go, now we can clearly see the new fonts. Still not great that we can't actually preview those, and for that reason we'll just probably be using the default fonts. They do the job properly, and anyway now we know how to quickly change those in future. And now I get into the last bit of theming in Jetpack Compose. Shapes. It's a simple feature that helps to beautify different screen elements by shaping them differently. There is a class called Shapes, and a few predefined values that we can override anytime. The simplest way to change the shape of an element is to grab a surface and tweak its respective property. So to change a card's shape, in our case for example, we can set it to something like large, or small, or whatever, if it looks good to us. Alright, and that's pretty much it for now. We've managed to define our first application theme that can be changed at any point in time later. The code is available for you on GitHub, there is a link in the description, and see you next time.